right, happy Mother's Day week. It is 6 days away, I think, from Mother's Day. Mother's Day is this coming Sunday. For those of you who have not arranged something nice for your mother, make sure to get on that because it's important. Today we have one of my dear friends, Iskra Lawrence, coming on to talk about new motherhood. She had her baby I think just turned 1. Last time I saw her, she was pregnant, very pregnant. I was newly pregnant. And it's been so amazing for me personally to be able to have her to be able to talk to about new motherhood and to be able to ask her questions about breastfeeding, about labor. I talked to her a lot ahead of my delivery, which was very helpful. So we are going to talk all about that and also body image. Iskra does so much amazing work and has really just dedicated so much time in her career into being such an amazing advocate for positive body image. And her and I have done a couple different things together when just talking about the importance of having somebody out there like her who is speaking to inner beauty and the importance of focusing on that, especially in the crazy industry that she's in. So let's get Iskra on and talk all things new mommyhood and hear what she has to say, especially as this.
Yay! I'm so happy we're doing this. It's so nice to see you.
Too. I know, it's great. I was literally just thinking, like, you and I were together I remember we were together last year, right before my book came out, and literally, I think it was the last event that you did before you had your baby.
The last one. And
crazy.
Who knew? I had no idea that you were pregnant then. And it has been so nice checking in with you and like hearing about your journey. And now you get to share it with everyone else on here.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm so honored that you took the time because I know how busy new mommyhood is. And your little one turned 1, which is crazy that it's already been
crazy.
I know, a year. So first, let's just talk about new motherhood. I mean, you had your baby literally like in the start of the pandemic, which is crazy. And then we've obviously had this past year, which has been wild, and we've checked in a couple times, but just so we start off with how your experience has been with having a 1-year-old.
I cannot believe that my baby is 1 already. And everyone says that it happens so quick, but it really, really does. And I kind of wish back and could somehow slow things down. I don't know. But it was a shock having a baby in a pandemic. My outlook and kind of vision for what it would look like would obviously be my family being there with me. My parents live in England. So even though they got to be there for the birth, they had to leave after like 4 weeks, and they have not gotten to come back. So, and I'm an only child, and it's obviously their first grandchild and only grandchild. And it's been really, really tough for them. And we FaceTime at least once a day, usually twice, but you know, they've missed a lot of milestones. Yeah. And that's been tough just for me as well, because you lean on your family, right? And you couldn't even you can kind of lean on your friends, but you couldn't really see anyone. So it definitely was like me and the hubby thugging it out, which is also cool because he got to see everything and he was so hands-on, and he still is. And I'm forever grateful because it's brought us, and I'm sure you've experienced that too, right? Because you'll have moments when you have some serious lows. And I am so glad that he saw that, because it has been the most challenging time for me, and I've become a new person, and we become new people as we turn into these roles. And just being able to be there together and see every single second of every day can be intense. But also I'm very grateful, because otherwise I just don't think he would have known what I was going through.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember checking in with you a couple times, right when you had your baby, and then up until when I had mine. And it was just such a crazy time, because there is that part, you know, where you do want to lean on your family. And I didn't realize that your family was only able to be here for 4 weeks, which is crazy. And you want to be able to, like, you know, of course, lean on them for support, but also lean on your girlfriends and just be able to, you know, heal. And also you did a home birth, which you had posted about, also crazy. And actually, I don't even think we've really talked about having a home birth on this series that I'm doing, but how was your experience doing a home birth? Because I know that was also nerve-wracking for you.
It was definitely nerve-wracking. I'm not gonna lie. When those contractions started, I was in the shower and I was like, why have I done this, Philip? This is the worst decision. I was like, is it too late? Can we still go to the hospital? And he's like, no, this is what you want. You know you want it, so let's just work through it. And it felt like forever. And I remember it being 4 a.m. and I just thought it, you know, the baby was about to come, and called my midwife, and she was like, absolutely not. She goes, it could be another 48 hours. And I was like, what? No way. Like, how could I keep going through this? And she said, and then she came, she's like, you're 1 centimeter dilated, try to go to sleep. And I don't know about you, but when those contractions started, it was just severe pain.
Yeah.
So my contractions started at 10 p.m. and my water didn't break till 11 the next day. And again, I didn't know, you're Googling everything, right? If you have even a little bit, a leak of fluid, you're like, oh my goodness, my waters are breaking. Yeah. No, I was on the toilet, just kind of rocking back and forth in pain. And Philip was stood in front of me and my waters broke with such like force. He got splashed.
That'll get you really close really quick.
Yeah. And then I said, I was actually really relieved because like, okay, finally, next phase, like let's go into active labor. So came out here into the kitchen, literally over there.
Wow.
Jumped in the water pool that we'd blown up, and 2 hours later, it was when, and he actually did get stuck. So that was a whole thing. And I think that I got a lot of heat from people saying, why would you risk having a home birth when modern medicine and hospitals, and I agree. I don't know what was in my heart or God guiding me, but I always wanted a home birth. I just always had. I had a couple of family members that did it, and I felt strong and I felt healthy, but it was terrifying when the midwife was like, he's stuck in your cervix. Do you want me to manually go up there?
And did she?
She did. And
wow.
Luckily I was in water, so I could flip back and forth because my comfortable position was like hands and knees, like Philip holding my hands and just being in kind of like connected like that. But she had to keep flipping me over. And I just thought, oh my gosh, if I was in a bed, I don't even know how I would manage to flip over. So she had to manually go in there, pull back my kind of the lip of the cervix. Yeah. And then he came out. But it was definitely, it was scary for a moment.
Would you do it again?
And weirdly, I would.
Yeah.
I would.
I feel like it's interesting because everybody is, especially in this, you know, mom world, and you're a little over a year into it. I'm almost 9 months into it, but it's very, you know, there's a lot of criticism with whatever you choose to do, breastfeeding, how you choose to, you know, if you work out during pregnancy, which I also want to talk about, if you have a home birth, if you don't, but it's so important to, you know, like what you're saying, and you're so great at that, to always stay true to your beliefs, what's in your heart, and to do, you know, what's important to you. And I think, you know, when you were pregnant, you were obviously very vocal. I remember watching your workout videos about just like, I was like, oh my God, she's so strong. She's just like, because so many people, you know, don't feel well during pregnancy. I felt really great, which I'm so grateful I was. And I was very active like you were. But can you talk about dealing with a changing body? Because that's such a big thing. And you're such an advocate of having a positive body image and a positive outlook on your body, and you're so outspoken about that. But, you know, dealing with the changes as you are pregnant, as you get more pregnant, it can mess with your head as a woman, and with someone with a history of body dysmorphia, like you've talked so much about. Can you talk a little bit about how you dealt with that?
Yes, there's a lot to unpack, and everyone's journey is going to be different. So even if you've kind of been following Katherine or following me and kind of seeing our transition, and again, our physical body of how it's changed and how it's kind of transformed into, because you have a new body now, right? And I think that's the biggest thing to come to terms with, because we are bombarded with the snapback. We're bombarded with the, like, are you going to get your body back or lose the baby weight? And it's like, all of those things are taking away the gift that your body has given you. The fact that you did have a wonderful body, but this new one, it created a whole human, and it stretched and it grew and it changed and it softened and it did all of these things. You cannot expect it to be identical to the one you had before. You literally can't. So coming to terms with that, of like, okay, now I have to take on this new role as a mother, accept and learn to love this new body that I'm in and this new lifestyle and just all the newness, right? Where to start, where to figure it out. And the grace that you need to give yourself and that kindness is honestly the first step. I had a bunch of different expectations. One of them was getting my fitness back to where it was before. And that's something I've struggled with because I feel like it's so much work to get back, but it's like, oh, I don't even know whether to start because it just feels like this huge mountain I have to climb to get back to the strength that I had where I used to weight lift and do all these things and be able to just jump so high. And maybe I'll get back to that, maybe I won't. And it's understanding that that's okay and that I will learn to keep loving the kind of new levels that I'm able to achieve. But that's also cool because life is great when you have a challenge, when you have something to work towards. So that's really where my head's at. I literally went to my first hot yoga class this morning and I've been feeling amazing.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, and I'm vaccinated now, so I feel more comfortable. I'm going to go back to the gym and be in that environment because even though I was doing some home workouts, I don't know, I struggled. I like going to the gym. I think it's also a form of escape for me. But one of the biggest things, if any of you here are someone who struggle with body dysmorphia or eating disorders like I have, is a lot of that sometimes stems from perfectionism or control. And that's the thing with pregnancy. Your baby is in the driving seat. You do not have control. You do not know how your body will respond or react. And speaking to more women, and I think that's so important, and why what you're doing, Katherine, is so important, is because the more voices and stories that you hear, and I have a friend and things downstairs completely changed and were swollen for years. Or, you know, I know people that have torn back to front, and you hear all these different stories and you essentially have to go in and you have no idea how you're going to come out of this. Yeah. And as scary as that sounds, it's a challenge. And you are capable. I think that looking around in this world and knowing that everyone came from a mother and everyone really, so many of us have been through this, you will cope and you will get through this and it will make you stronger. Something body image wise I've been struggling with is in my teen years, I had really bad breakouts that it's such a shame that skin for me has been one of those things where it can really influence my day, right? I like associate bagged skin with just my confidence and you know, I just really, it sometimes makes me feel a bit down. And
totally,
yeah, so I didn't wear makeup on purpose today because I thought if we're really being like truthful about all of our experiences, my skin is still very broken out, even 12 months postpartum. Yeah, it has been up and down like this whole time. And I before was on the contraceptive and literally I just feel like unless I go back on that exact one, my skin's probably never going to be the same. So that's something I haven't seen as many people speaking about, and I do want to speak more to, because your hormones are going crazy. Your flexibility is going to change, your muscle tone, you know, I think everyone assumes maybe just your stomach changes, but there's so much that can change. You can get swollen when you're pregnant and maybe that won't immediately go back and it will mess with your whole circulatory system. So I think doing your research and figuring out, I struggle with, and for me, like I said, skin and hormones has definitely been an issue. Circulation and swelling has been an issue. So are there measures or things that I can do to maybe just help that a little bit? So for me, I've been wearing less makeup and just, you know, finding the right products that don't irritate me. And again, just that grace and that kindness and just remembering, like, look at what I've done. He's worth everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also especially to keep that mindset, you know, you're breastfeeding still, right? Yes. So I think, and I am as well. And I always, my husband has always been super supportive and also very vocal about the fact, like, he'll look at our daughter and just be like, can you believe that you're able to feed, like your body's able to feed your baby? And sometimes I think, especially as women with this pressure, like you were talking about, this pressure to bounce back after baby, it's, you know, you have to keep in mind that when you're breastfeeding, you need to, as my husband says, eat to win, and to feed yourself so you can also properly nourish your baby, because for a lot of people, what you eat and how you treat your body also hugely impacts your milk supply. And if you know, want to stay up on that, I know that you and I talked about that because you gave me this long list of different herbs and things to order ahead of having my daughter, which was I mean, has come in handy for sure. But also just like constantly reminding yourself, and I do this when I'm looking at my daughter, it's like your body, and especially when I look back at pictures of myself right before I gave birth, it's incredible what our bodies are able to do and how we're able to stretch and to, if you're lucky and feel good when you're pregnant, to be able to be strong and work out and stay active. And, also to understand that even if you're, active and able to work out after you have your baby, that there will be some things that are just going to be different, and that's amazing. And, you're like, I look at things and I'm like, my body doesn't look the way it used to, but I'm able to feed and nourish my baby, which is like the greatest, as a mom, the greatest gift to be able to have, and to have a healthy child is incredible. So I love that you're speaking about, and when it comes to skin and hormones, I'm always talking about, I had melasma really bad, and I still do. So I had the hormonal acne in the beginning, in like my first and second trimester, but then my melasma was like really, really aggressive. So I think being able to talk about, everybody deals with something different when it comes to the hormones. And I feel like the hormone part, I'm so happy that you're talking about, because it isn't something that's talked about enough, about how it affects whether it's your skin, swelling, your emotions, your mental health. There's so much that you don't really hear that much about, or at least I didn't, when you're pregnant and also postpartum with hormones.
Definitely, yeah. Then the mental health aspect is huge. If you're someone who already is feeling not enough, I think that unfortunately there's nothing harder than seeing your baby upset. And it will immediately take you to that place of like, I'm not doing something right, I'm not good enough, and it can really get you into that negative space. And it's very important, if you need affirmations, or if you need to see a therapist, or whatever you need to do, your mom tribe that like are on text, anything, just do that and ask for help, because it's tough. It's amazing and rewarding. And it was really funny because one of my friends in LA, Claire, she was 5 weeks, she gave birth 5 weeks before me. And even though like she'd sent me pictures of Celine and, she hadn't really said too much. And then when I gave birth, and then I was like, whoa, this is tough. She was like, yeah, I didn't really want to tell you because I didn't want you to be nervous or like get upset or think I was being a Debbie Downer or negative, but it's been really tough too. So it's just like, I think taking the first step of being really honest with your friends or your people around you, just I told everyone, I'm like, I'm crying, I'm breaking down still, I need to shut myself in a toilet sometimes to get away, because you just don't know what to do sometimes. And even though you're told, and it is one of the most natural things you can do, it still can feel completely unnatural in the sense of you've never done it before. And so your book, which I'm really grateful to have been part of forgiveness, I think that actually that is a really important part to play. We have to forgive ourselves. There are times when I got frustrated with a newborn baby, and I felt like it felt ugly to me that I even had those feelings and emotions. And I wish more people would have told me how they felt sometimes, because, if the breastfeeding isn't working, or you're getting frustrated, or your milk supply drops, or you're just sleep deprived and everyone else's baby's sleeping and yours isn't, or maybe there's milestones. I know a lot of people, I felt like my baby, I guess, hit milestones quite early. And I remember a comment, and I ended up DMing this lady because she goes, I have a 9-month-old and, she's not even crawling yet, and I'm so concerned. And there's just something always that can make us feel like we're not doing it right, or we're not doing it well enough. So it's really important to just check in with yourself and check in if you have anyone that's currently pregnant or postpartum, check in with them, because they need that.
No, I think that's so important. I love the forgiveness aspect that you weave in there about just being, I think it has a lot to do with also grace and being gentle with yourself as a new mom, especially, and a new mom in the craziest time to become a new mom in this pandemic, which is, you can't lean on support, whether it's your family or your friends. You can't have that as you would pre-pandemic. And so it's definitely an adjustment. When you're talking about mantras, I know that in all of the conversations that I've been lucky enough to do with you, and just, knowing you've always been so vocal about having mantras pre-pregnancy. when it comes to whether it's skin, your body, feeling down on yourself, having a positive attitude that you would always remind yourself of. Did that change when you were pregnant at all, or was it the same?
You know what? I felt like an absolute goddess during pregnancy. I really did. I felt like I actually felt really sexy. And, you know, I think I was more in my head before, wondering if I'd be okay with my growing body and how it was changing. And I absolutely loved it. I really did. And again, I'm very grateful I had a really easy pregnancy. But postpartum, one of the things I struggled with was before when you're pregnant, you're napping, you're chilling, everyone's doing things for you, like you're the center of attention in that sense. And obviously baby comes and you just have to figure out this mom thing immediately, and you're breastfeeding, and maybe that's tricky, and you again sleep deprived, and the last thing that you do is actually look after yourself. And that was something that I've had to schedule in and plan. And again, my partner checks in with me all the time and makes sure that I'm okay, and he also reassures me of how great of a mother I am, which you'd be surprised, like a lot of moms need that regularly. Because you could be being really hard on yourself or taking things to heart. And I think one thing I noticed was when I hear my baby cry, it like does something inside that I don't think anyone in the world would ever experience in the same way. Like it just really like eats away at my heart, my being, everything. And it can take me from being in a positive mood to just a really sad mood or frustrated mood, or and so really kind of having those self-care tools or having those affirmations is really important. But one of the best affirmations, which is I guess not the most positive one, but it's a survival affirmation right now, is I'm not a mess, the house is a mess. And it sounds really weird, but like I've definitely not coped well with, like, again, not having people to help out and just the house being a mess. And I often look a mess, and I have to stop saying like, I don't look a mess, like everything else is a mess, but I am not a mess. So that's been a new affirmation. I've never had to feel that before, because I've always been able to, you know, do my hair or throw on a nice outfit or just tidy up, and it could be tidy for days. But now if I tidy and clean, it takes one snack or like one play session, and then the whole place is just, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do it all over again. And I know that's my privilege, that, you know, I've lived in small apartments or hotels, I've traveled, and I've just never really been around kind of a big family home situation for a long time. And I'm an only child, so my parents are OCD clean. So I just never experienced that. And it really can affect me. The mess can really affect me. So that's something that's new that I've had to figure out and like work with, and also explain to my partner, like, it can make me really upset when I look around and it's just it is a mess. And then I take it personally, like, well, I'm a mess. And I'm like, no. So that's my current affirmation.
I love that. I mean, I think that it's so true. It's funny. It's like when your home is messier, there are things everywhere. And I feel like before I had my daughter, I was always like, I'm not going to be that person who has play equipment everywhere and like baby stuff everywhere. And I look at my kitchen now and I'm like, there's a bouncy thing here. There's a Dock-A-Tot here. There's just like, and you just kind of have to, I guess, you know, have a day where it's clean or a moment where it's clean. And then after that, it's, you know, just goes to the baby.
And know that it's a phase. You know, totally. Know that it's a phase.
I think also, you know, you got, when I always ask people to submit questions, there were a lot of questions of people who felt like they were maybe dealing with body image issues as their growing body. And I know you touched about it, but I wanted to give people who are maybe struggling with that some sort of your amazing advice, which is, of course, you have such a positive outlook on your body. And of course you were feeling amazing when you were pregnant and active and felt like a goddess. But for someone who may not have that reaction or may have struggled with an eating disorder before and feels tempted to go back down that way, and to go, you know, back into that mentality, what would be some things that would be some tips for people when they find themselves going into that dark place and just not comfortable in their pregnant body?
Right. So yeah, there's definitely a few places I'd start. One of them is if you are active on social media, and if you feel like you go on social media and you're following people who potentially are triggering you into that comparative space, unfollow and instead follow people who do inspire you, uplift you, bring something positive into your life, because you'd be surprised how your feed and what you're consuming can make you feel about yourself. And comparison is the thief of joy. And generally, I feel like when we talk about pregnancy, it's because we have expectations of what someone else looked like. And I certainly know that that whole snapback thing was only because I'd seen other models, you know, on the runway 3 months after, and then was like, whoa, am I going to be, am I meant to, wait, am I? And then just like quieting that kind of comparative voice was really, really important for me. And I think for a lot of other people. The other thing would be try and find ways to still get dressed up, like, or do something for yourself. If it's getting a massage or some kind of self-care TLC, having a nice bath, doing a face mask, those sound like shallow things and can be, but honestly, those little moments where you prioritize you are really, really important, because you're probably prioritizing everyone and obviously baby, and then forgetting about you. So that's really important. It's not even so much about what you do, but it's just about making time for you. But the getting dressed is really important. So if you struggle with that, because if you're wearing, pregnancy clothes aren't always the cutest clothes. You have to kind of hunt around, and you know, you're always tempted to just wear the comfiest oversized sweats, and you might just kind of lose your identity, because what you wear is a huge part of your identity and how you feel about yourself.
Right.
So take that time. If you need a little section in your rail, or if you can make space, plan out a few outfits that you are excited to put on. And even that, like even your favorite lipstick, whatever it might be, like just plan a few ways that you're going to make yourself feel positive. And some of that will come down to how you dress and what you wear and how you present yourself, because that can be a huge determiner. So that's a really good one. And then also gratitude diary, journaling, so important. There's some really positive ones out there that might have prompts, but also I feel like what you can do is, if you're really having a negative day, write down why you're feeling negative, and then have a separate column, and then you can write down why I shouldn't, in the sense of, so say if you think I'm feeling disgusting because I've put on weight during my pregnancy, then in the next column would be like, but I have to because I'm growing a baby inside of me. And then it kind of allows you to figure out ways to handle those feelings, because you don't want to ignore how you're feeling, because that's just suppressing things, and everything you're feeling is completely valid, and you need to, right? We have to kind of flow through these emotions, but giving yourself the answers and the tools, because they're inside of you, that will help you get through those moments, and that will help you pass through and get to that kind of more positive space. And it'd also be interesting, because as you're working through it, when you're then postpartum, you're going to go back and just think, wow, I felt that way, or I was going through all of those things. So treat it as a little challenge, an acceptance challenge of how you're feeling in these moments. And again, find your community, find your tribe. Like we said, when you've got someone on text to just bounce some kind of positivity off you, that can be a game changer.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that, especially during this past year, that, you know, we've all been in isolation, to be able to have these little, you know, I remember seeing when I was very pregnant, I remember seeing you, a post that you had done where you actually like got dressed up. I think you were just going outside in front of your house. But I was like, that's so cool. I wonder when I'm going to do that again, because I was like so pregnant in the summer, and it was just like, and we were all in lockdown, of course, then, but it is this idea, and you know, we talk so much about inner beauty, which is of course so important, and you're an incredible voice for that, and telling people about the importance of that and focusing on that. But it does, you know, it is important sometimes, just especially in this year, we've all been in sweats and in workout clothes, and then you're pregnant on top of it, and so you're wearing things that are just like not the greatest, and then to really just be able to take a day and just put some mascara on. I mean, I literally just come down in here to do these, and I put mascara on, and I'm like, I feel so much better. It's like, you know, it really does make such a difference. And I think it really does. It helps the mindset, because you can get a little, you know.
Definitely. And it's definitely bonding as well, because there's this shared experience when you go through this. You'll either, maybe you already have friends that have been through, you know, pregnancy, postpartum, or maybe you're going to find new people in your life, or even a community online, and it will bond you in a really special way.
Totally.
And you don't even have to, that's the crazy thing. like, I know that me and you have gone through this at the similar time and been able to kind of, you know, message each other through it. And that's just like a nice special bond that's different from a bond that I've had before with people. And obviously I feel like even the tribe and the friends that I have now look very different and are very different. I'm so sometimes the comments have me cracking up on here. Trying to ignore some of them, but it is pretty funny. One other thing regarding body image is, again, I look at this postpartum hair. It's so funny. Look,
I call them my little bangs, and my sister gets so mad. She's like, Katherine, what are you doing? I'm like, I have these little postpartum
They're so funny.
They're crazy. I mean, that was something that, by the way, I also did not know would be a real thing.
Yes.
And then you hear about some women who talk about, you know, postpartum hair loss, and you're like, okay, like maybe that's just like, you know, when you're pregnant, your hair gets so thick, and then it just kind of like normalizes after you have a baby. But then nobody really talks about these like little Bridgerton bangs that are sort of
Bridgerton bangs. Oh my goodness, she did have bangs like that. That's hysterical.
So
it's, again, Philip's sick of me talking about my hair. When it started to fall out, I don't know when yours started to. I think mine was like 3.5 months, 4 months.
Yeah,
maybe.
mine too.
Yeah. I was just like, I was just horrified. And it's all I could talk about. It's all I was obsessed with. And literally Philip was like, it's just your hair. Like, it's going to be okay. It's going to grow back. And I'm like, do you know how long you know how long it's going to take to grow back to this?
Yeah. But then of course it grows back at these little tiny little, and you're like, what? Never had hair like this. I don't, to my recollection, you know, but there it is. I want to also, just before we finish, I want to also talk about this. We've touched on the bounce back pressure. Mm-hmm. You're a model. You're a huge model in this amazing, crazy industry where you've been such an advocate of, you know, loving yourself, inner and outer beauty, and embracing curves, which, you know, you and I, that's originally how we even met, is just talking about positive body image. But when you have a baby, you felt like a goddess, which is incredible. And some people do, some people don't. I also I was fascinated by my body, that it was able to do all of these things and to just like grow a child. And I'm still like perplexed by it. But how did you, in the industry that you are in and the success level that you've had in this industry, and you do see so many models who are, you know, your peers in this industry who bounce back very quickly and they're off working again, and it kind of is like they never even had a baby. But you've really been an advocate with talking about the importance of not bouncing back, but feeling strong, embracing your new body, which is amazing, especially as somebody who had a baby very close to you. To be able to have that to, you know, in my Instagram feed and have that messaging is so important. And I'm so grateful you did that. But can you talk a little bit about, for people who might either be pregnant and having a baby soon and nervous about the bounce back, or maybe just had a baby, or maybe had a baby 10 years ago and are still not bounced back, the pressure there and how you have dealt with that so wonderfully?
Yeah, great question. I would say that I made sure, again, I was surrounding myself or not putting myself in situations where I felt pressured to bounce back. I've been very lucky because even though my career in the fashion industry started off in the straight size route, where I was constantly told I was too big, too curvy, not enough in so many ways, and rejected many, many times, after 10 years of fighting that battle, I managed to actually end up carving my own career out of the industry by saying, this is going to be my size. I might not fit into the plus size division or the straight size division, but there is a place for everybody, every size, every shape, every ability, every color. And that was really how I kind of carved out my little niche within the industry. And so I've gotten to the point where, on personal level, I know that any brand that I align with has to be able to accept me as I am. And that will change and that will fluctuate. And for me, that means throwing out clothes that don't fit me anymore, because I think that's a big one. I call them like the graveyard clothes, where it's just like,
that's clever.
Don't hold on to things that you know, because you can be, oh, but what if I get back? Just move on. I think continuing to move forward is really, really important. When we look back, and that's why I don't like those phases where it's like losing and the losing the baby weight, or they're all saying that you have to give up a part of you. And it's like, you're becoming so much more all the time. Your pregnancy, that's a huge journey that you've been on. Don't have that expectation of the unrealistic kind of body image, because that's just going to feel like you're failing. Be really gentle with yourself, and set realistic goals. And I think that was one thing that really helped me. And hopefully, by sharing it, try to move if it feels good for you. If that's going to be a positive thing in your life, continue to do it. But the bounce back, and that I'm just trying to avoid being in those environments or having to do that to myself, because it's just not worth it. And as a model, I definitely gave myself a lot of space and a lot of time, and I've only done a few shoots because I don't really want to travel and leave my child. And I know that soon, school's happening, and I'll just potentially turn back around in years to come and regret not trying to give all of my time and energy. So I think there's just a lot of ways that we can see day to day, like how we're feeling. And that's got to be your best gauge, because I can't predict how your pregnancy will go, how postpartum will go, how your birth will go. But one thing I know is that you will get through it, and you will, after it, come out with the most miraculous tiny human that you created, which is, again, like we said, just mind-blowing. And really just keeping that as the base. Like, I did something absolutely phenomenal. Like, thank you, body. If you however often you need to say that, like, thank you. That's really important. So thanking yourself, forgiving yourself, giving yourself that grace and kindness, surrounding yourself with a positive tribe who you can lean on and be very vulnerable with, very important. And don't be scared. And I think this is why it's so great we're doing this, because hopefully I've maybe shared some things with you that make you think, oh, okay, I felt that too. Like, that's okay. Like, anything you're feeling is okay. There is no one way to go through this. We're all just trying to go through it, right? And do the best that we can. And you are, whatever that looks like to you, you are doing an amazing job.
It's such a great thing for people to be able to hear that, because I always say that with forgiveness. I always say that there's no right or wrong way to forgive, but there's only your way. And it's true with pregnancy as well. There's no right or wrong way to feel during pregnancy or postpartum. There's only your way to feel, and to be able to have people around you to talk to confide in when you're pregnant, if there are things that you're nervous about. I remember I was very nervous about my labor and delivery, and I was texting you like crazy. I was like, what am I going to do to make sure that doesn't go down there, does not go crazy? Like, what do I do? And it was just like, to be able to have that, even though like we weren't physically together, as a girlfriend, to be able to have that is such a huge gift. So I know I've thanked you for that before, but it was just to have that during my pregnancy was such a gift. And I think to have you on today is such a gift for people who are listening, to be able to feel heard in their space and in this time that you're in, and your pregnancy, to be able to relate to your pregnancy journey, and having feelings of maybe wondering what's going on with your body, and to be able to have tips and tricks to be able to get to a place that's more positive is such a huge gift that you constantly put out there, but to have it here is so amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time. I cannot wait to get the babies together.
I cannot wait. It's going to be so cute.
The matching outfits. I'm just so excited.
Oh,
thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you. And happy early Mother's Day.
Thank you. You too. This is your first one.
My first one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Try not to cry too much.
I know. I find myself constantly like on the verge of tears with everything. Like, if she starts getting in a crawling position, I'm like, she's growing up.
It's too soon. It's too soon. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Iskra. I'm so grateful.
Good to see you. Sending so much love.
Thank you. Bye.